The mother had got a good diet and got medical care for anything that might negatively affect the fetus.
Exactly.
But
which is why I think it's just hypocrisy, and it's just their way of controlling women rather than. I could understand if it were religious, like they claim, but then for them to be religious, they would have to be consistent, and they are not consistent.
And that's why it doesn't seem like you said it, Marilyn. And we're going to start the show here right now. But you said it, Marilyn. I don't think they're being consistent. Will made also a good point. If they care this much pre-birth, then why aren't they doing X, Y, Z, right?
Exactly.
So they're not. So the consistency isn't there. So it makes it doesn't make us. It alters us to think, what is the real issue here? And because that is non-explained, what's the real issue? Then we're confused on the, lack of a better word, argument. And the argument.
Well, I don't think we're so much confused. I think many of us know what it really is about. Many of us know that it's a control issue. I want to be able to control you, so I'm going to put these rules in order to, and these laws in order to control you. Because these laws, have we started recording yet?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, right. Yeah, because these laws put women at
servitude.
Well, and also their safety. Because if you could say to someone, hey, no matter what happens, if you manage to drop your seed in this woman, you're going to have a child. If somebody wants to have a child with a certain woman, all he has to do is grab her in some alley or some place like that, or drug her, when she's not looking, and bam, you've got a child. And then that woman is forced to co-parent with you. And could you imagine the nightmare of having someone that you are co-parenting with that you did not choose as a woman, and the nightmare for the child as well, knowing that the parents are in have that kind of a relationship.
It sounds so close to be slavery, when they were producing slaves and you had no choice but to bear children.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And then if you couldn't refuse it at all. But we will talk about that, a different topic, and I'm glad everyone's in.
Well, before I go, I want to make sure I understand the religious argument.
Me too.
If the religious argument was taken to its consistent basis, I would be like, okay, that's what you believe in, and I could see that. But the choosing and the picking, it's just,
Welcome to You Be the Judge, every Wednesday at 6 p.m. We are so happy to have you every Wednesday at 6 p.m. We have Bridges Live presents You Be the Judge. I'm one of the co-hosts, Dr. Paul Dyer, with my two beautiful women who are just astounding, Judge Claudia Barber and soon-to-be Judge, as you can see up here, Marylyn Pierre, for judge for Montgomery County Circuit Court Judge. I also like to give, because she won't ask, send money. We need your money to win races, and we need your money, really, truthfully, because there are lobbyists who don't want Maryland to be on the bench. It's not because she doesn't qualify. It's not because she's a woman, and that's probably part of it. It's not because she's black, or that could be part of it, but because they have agendas. And what I mean by they, other than people who really want to just hear court cases, to be legal-minded and to be fair and impartial. That's a scary, dangerous word. Impartial. Wow. And a thinker. Wow. This past week, I want to talk about, before we get into we talk about some heavy things on here, You Be the Judge. And what I want you to think about is not so much what we talk about, but I did this thing on Mental Health Mondays that I want you to learn how to recharge so you can reconnect with the living purpose of why you're living and why you're doing the things you're doing. Because we get hit every week, every day, so often with so many powerful, incredible, disgusting things that are happening to our Black community, to the American as a community, to the nation as a whole, and to the global world. We are getting hit left and right because the more you're involved, and a lot of these ladies can tell you, and men, the more you're involved, the more information you're going, is that really, this is happening here? We're having a lot of fires around the globe, around Maryland, around our nation, that really puts heavy weight on our soul. So take the time, do your prayers, reconnect with your personal healthy self. Because if you stay in the fight and you get too confused and too overwhelmed, it'll take you out and it'll take you away from the fight. And we need all of you. We need all of you to be balanced, fair, impartial, and ready. Because we need you. Because if we don't have you, then they are winning. So I want to say that. So Marylyn, please introduce yourself, and then Judge Claudia Barber before we get into our lovely guest, Dr. Yvette, and then we'll get going. Marylyn.
You know, you always talk about how beautiful Judge Barber and I are, and we have not paid you the same respect. I am so sorry.
It's okay.
We have a wonderful, handsome co-host over here, Dr. Paul Dyer. So thank you very much for doing such a great job with the introduction. My name is Marylyn Pierre, and I am so happy to be co-hosting, and I'm even happier to see all of these beautiful faces on the screen over there. Hi, everyone. Okay, Judge Barber, your turn.
Welcome to You Be the Judge. I'm looking forward to this, as I do every week. This wonderful program, our host, our main host, who is illustrious and really hits the nail on the head when it comes to choice of topics and when it comes to getting the issues out there that matter. So I'm excited about today's program. I'm excited about our guests, and I'm looking forward to the discussion.
All right, Marylyn, take it away, please, because you do so well introducing people than I do. To me, like I've always said, to me it sounds like I'm announcing a baseball game. And batter up is, and that just sounds horrible. And so go ahead, Marylyn.
I think you're great. You do an excellent job. So I think you're being way too modest. I'm going to take a deep breath because this is going to take a while. Because
you don't have to read it all.
Yes, we do.
Well, no, you're right. I am not going to read it all because I will not do that to myself. Because it's part of self-care, you see. This woman has so many accomplishments and has won so many awards. I dare not, spend 45 minutes of our hours just reading her bio. So let me start. Okay. Yvette Butler Yeboah. Let me spell Yeboah for you. Yeboah, MD. Okay. Yvette Butler Yeboah is a respected member of the medical community, business owner, education advocate, coalition builder, grassroots organizer, avid volunteer, and influencer in motivating participation in local and national politics. Dr. Butler lives the mission of Gapbuster Learning Center Incorporated, the organization for which she is the founder and president. Educating, empowering, and elevating students and their families is what Gapbusters does. Since 1999, Dr. Butler has worked intently through Gapbuster, a nonprofit. Oops, I lost my space, so okay. Sorry. Yeah, since 1999, Dr. Butler has worked intently to Gapbuster, a nonprofit educational enrichment program to close the academic achievement gap and raise the achievement bar for minority students in Montgomery County Public Schools and Prince George's County Public Schools. Dr. Butler has worked in partnership with MCPS, Montgomery County Public Schools, and PGCPS, Prince George's County Public Schools, and community-based organizations to address issues of equity. These issues include resource distribution, access to opportunity, including premium programs, enrichment curricula versus remediation, including for students for whom English is not their native language, disparity in enactment of discipline regulations, and increased outreach and meaningful engagement of families and community partners to support minority students and their families. She and her program staff have reached more than 20,000 kindergartners through 12th grade students and their families across both counties. In addition to the academic component of Gapbuster, Dr. Butler developed Leaders in Training, LIT, a leadership component to help students discover and nurture their natural leadership skills, civic responsibility, and compassion for both their communities and the world beyond. Using her medical training in infectious disease, Dr. Butler worked with community partners to create an HIV youth peer educator training curriculum. This component facilitated an international partnership with schools in South Africa. In addition, LIT, as part of its mission, trains students and their family members in Get Out, the vote, and voter registration efforts for Board of Education, County Council, County Delegate, and national elections. Also, Gapbuster has co-sponsored town hall meetings and candidate forums for several county level elections to provide communities access to candidates and promote participation in the election process. Dr. Butler also models participation in the local political process. Her students and their family members have testified on issues affecting students at the school board, county council, and in Annapolis. Committed to community-based organizations as agents of change, Dr. Butler has served as the Montgomery County NAACP's Parents Council President/Chair, the Maryland State NAACP State Youth Chair, and National Minority AIDS and Education Training Center, Howard University faculty member, in addition to the National State Director of the League of Latin American Citizens, which is LULAC, and the LULAC Northeast Youth Director, and many other volunteer roles. Dr. Butler is a native Californian. She arrived in the Washington, D.C. area from New York in 1994 and worked at Howard University's ACTG as the study coordinator and co-investigator for 8 years. Dr. Butler taught HIV education and prevention to Howard University's allied health students and other,
that's so much.
And other healthcare providers. Okay, yeah, I see what happened. Okay, and other healthcare providers, drawing from her extensive knowledge in HIV/AIDS treatment, clinical trials, and patient management, as well as development and implementation of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's evidence-based community interventions and educational programs. Dr. Butler continues her involvement in HIV/AIDS intervention, particularly on the international stage, and more recently with new and investigational medications for patients with diabetes, hypertension, and cardiac disorders. Dr. Butler has also held the following positions: Medical Science Liaison for Park Davis and what is that, Amylin Pharmaceuticals?
Yes, Amylin.
Yeah.
Amylin. Thank you. Medical Director for the antiviral. Oh, okay, should we just say that she is awesome and then we can go and talk with her? You know, you won the you were a nominee for LULAC's Women's Hall of Fame. You won the Community Advocate Award for the African American Health Program. You won the Community Service Award from the Potomac Valley section of the National Council of Negro Women. You won the Pan-African Diaspora Community Outstanding Volunteer Service Award. You were highlighted in Voices in Education. You won the Unsung Hero Award from Leadership Montgomery.
Well,
the Community Service Award from the J. Franklin Bourne Bar Association, Channel 7, Toyota Working Women.
A lot of this I've forgotten.
As an Outstanding Efforts in the Community Award. Okay, let's see. You were awarded the Civic Organization of the Year Award by the United Food and Commercial Workers Union Minority Coalition. Okay, fine. So, like I said, I don't want to spend 45 minutes of our time just going over.
As a guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Hold on.
We shall bow to you.
Yeah. But as a guy, I'm sure every guy is wondering, how can she do this and still be only 35 years old? I mean, I
think she's barely legal myself.
Yeah,
but,
that's the question
so you
we
go
have.
If you want to.
Like, how is that? That's.
I take. First of all, Marilyn, thank you so much. That was just that was more than a mouthful. I'm like sitting there like, oh my God, I don't remember that. I've been around for at least 6+ decades. So,
well, you don't look it, not at all.
But thank you.
Yeah, we wanted to have you here because you were having a wonderful conversation with Dr. Dyer on Wednesday before we started recording. And so we're like, hey, why don't you just show up? And that way we can continue the conversation you were having with him. So I'm just going to turn things over to Dr. Dyer and Dr. Butler, Yeboah, and Dr. Dyer could continue, and we're just jumping whenever.
So one of the things that I want to have you to address to us is, how can we and what is next? Because that's really the things we want to do here on You Be the Judge, is to, one, inform, one, understand, and so we can put everything into an action. And then we have these amazing legal minds here to understand the dichotomy of where we are missing on a legal issue, because we don't understand a lot of those things. So take it away, Dr. Butler.
Oh, that's a mouthful. So how can we, and where, let me see, where should I begin? Let me tell you a little bit what I'm doing now with my life. I am into my husband says it's like my my next midlife crisis or elderly life crisis, where I'm like, what do I want to be remembered for? And what impact can we and me personally make, not just on a local scale, but internationally? So some of the things that I do now is I work with my husband, actually really trying to bring us together as people of color and making sure that we're economically empowered, politically aware and in the political elements, as well as connecting to our historical roots in the continent. So one of the things that I've been doing now with my new life is actually expanding more into the continent of Africa. We went there for over 9 years, taking young people to South Africa and doing HIV and AIDS prevention. Now it's all about really learn our ancestral roots, because if you don't know where you're going or where you came from, you don't know where you're going. So we really have to learn about where we truly came from, and how we're connected, how we're all connected as one. And that one of the things that I tell young people, and I tell everyone, when you realize where you came from, you know what you have to do, and you know where you have to go. And one of the things that I have realized from all my travels, and is that
only the strong actually survive. And I want to say this, Marilyn, I want to thank you for running as you do, because guess what? Only the strong survive, and you will overcome. This will be your year to be judged, because only the strongest of us actually made it across out of the continent to be here today. And so I think if we know some of those things and where we go from here, I think everyone collectively, I think everyone should take a trip to the continent and go through those dungeons and see what we have passed through and how we are here today still surviving and living and what we have to do with our lives. So there's a lot of stuff where we have to go. I think that we need to really start thinking about how we can make a difference in all of these new change agents, because these young people coming up, we have to kind of reinvest in our young people and make sure those of us who have some of the wisdom really impart that in our generation behind us.
Can we talk a little bit about that first? Because that's how I met you. I don't know how many years ago. Because I met you through your work in the community with the young people. And having seen you do that for all these years and having met so many of the young people that you worked with and seeing where they're at, I mean, you're just such a great resource in the community. I don't know if you want to brag about them, or do you want me to start bragging about them and you can catch up? Because what you have done for these young people is amazing. And I don't think other people know as much about that. So go ahead. I read your bio. We know you all that.
You read my bio. I really say they actually enriched my life. When I hit 40, when I hit 40, I really went through midlife crisis. They say only men go through that, but women go through it as well. So I actually left my medical career to work and reinvest and put energy into our future generation. And that's our youth. Because I feel like I've got mine, they not get theirs. Because this world is not fair. Living in this country as a Black woman is not fair, and it's not going to be fair. And we have to take it by the horns and do what we have to do as a Black woman or a Black individual. We have to really make a difference. So I decided to do a whole transformational shift and start working with young people and giving them opportunities in the basic foundation to achieve to their highest goals. So I'm really excited. Like Marilyn said, we've worked over 20,000. That's not just locally, but state, I would say nationwide, because Gapbuster was not only in Maryland, we were in California, we were in Delaware, we used to be in Texas, we were in a lot of the states, plus internationally in South Africa, and now in the continent of Ghana, or in the country of Ghana. We're now servicing young people there. And so our young people, as you say, they are amazing. I had one just yesterday call me. She is now a dean of a college, which is, I know, I love it. We have about 7 or 8 physicians, tons of lawyers who come out, and some who are going in, coming out of high school, going to law, a lot of folks going to communities, into nonprofit management, and also working at the governmental level to make change. Because I believe the young people are the change agents. And so they have been...
I'm just to interrupt you for a second. Also, you work so hard to get them to where they're at, in a sense, not just academically, but I was really surprised at the amount of scholarships that you were able to... Well, I mean, yes, they won the scholarships, but they would not have known about them. And if you could talk a lot more about that, because there's so many people who say, I can't go to college because I don't have any money. But
I tell young people that don't think about the money. Think about the college you want to go to and strive for that. And we'll worry about the money later, because the money will come, especially if you do all that you need to do to get there. So we've had, for the entire length of Gates Millennium, which is now ended, we had students win the Gates Millennium. We had students full scholarships at multiple different colleges. Both my daughters are now, they both, one of them's graduated, but the other one's now at Cornell going to school. Another one, Spelman, Spelman doesn't get full scholarships. And so Morehouse, Howard, it's at least 100 plus colleges that our students have been able to go to, and most of them have gotten a lot of their colleges paid for. So we find the money for them, and then they apply for a lot of the, they've gotten almost every grant and scholarship they've applied for, which is good.
Well, Dr. Butler, you said something that is just so sobering, and you said it as a black woman, as a black person in America, that this place in America is just not fair. You've already dictated that you've been doing this for 6 decades. And to have that sobering statement to say, this place is not fair, so we must, ... We're not getting to the ... We already know how unfair it is, and then we get so bogged in mentally, emotionally, and physically complaining about how unfair it is that we never get to the ... And I think that's where we're stuck. We're stuck as a people. We're stuck as a nation. How do we get unstuck? Because you've been helping kids get unstuck.
I think what Dr. Butler Yeboah has done is exactly what we need to do to get unstuck, because she has actually unstick some of the kids that she is, many of the kids that she has worked with. And like, for instance, some of them, I don't think when they went to school, they were engaged. They probably would have been dropouts. Now, mind you, I love these kids. I'm not talking badly about them.
Right. It's just
kids drop out with more resources than those kids have. And I don't mean to be talking down about them either. It's just that they didn't have anybody around them who recognized the potential that they had, and they didn't have anybody who could show them the way. And I think Dr. Butler Yeboah is one of those people who's like, each one teach one. But instead of her teaching one, she is teaching thousands and thousands. and that's how we get unstuck. We have people who share their time, talent, and treasure with people. And we have some other people who just, I've got this little talent over here. I'm going to keep it to myself because I feel like I'm, if I share it with someone, then they're going to have it too. And I'm not going to be that special.
Okay, then let me figure if I can rephrase this. I understand, and I agree with you, Marylyn. This is she has, and there's many people who help us to get unstuck. Then how come we feel we have not gone that far with so many people, each one teach one, or is it just not enough?
Well, do you want me to answer it, or do you? Okay, go ahead.
Well, I think every last one of us can do more. And that's the bottom line. And when you feel you've done all you can do, you still can give and do more. And it's not just reach one, teach one. And I tell people, what happens is we do as a people sit back and complain about this and that. But I tell you, if you're going to complain about something, you need to have a solution before you start complaining. And so be solutionary. So then we might be able to complain, but find a solution when you start with something's wrong. What do you think? How are you going to change it? What are you going to do to make it different? And that's what I get our young people to think about when they're sitting back thinking about all this and all the different, the different unfortunate things that have happened. Yes, there's a lot of unfortunate things that have happened. But how are we going to change it? And what are we going to do about it? And I really think connecting to our ancestral roots is a big thing and a big factor for a lot of folks. I was able to leave this country when I was 24. And that's what changed me as a young woman. And the exposure is so important to get people out of their comfort zone. I left this country and went and lived in Antigua, West Indies for 18 months. I lived in Mexico for 2.5 years, so I'm bilingual. So I think exposure and taking you out of your normal everyday element is going to be a game changer. And that's what we have to really think. And if you can't take them out of there, bring it to them so that they can see the other side. So if you see the other side, you know you can get to the other side and you know you can change where you are today. But you got to see it to believe it. And I think that in itself is really where we have to go. And each and every last one of us needs to think about how much more can I do? And then once you get to that point, okay, how much more can I do again? because I tell people, and I tell my husband this every day, the Lord didn't put me here just to live and breathe and die. The Lord put me here for some other reason, and I just find what that reason is. So every day I find out, what reason am I here for? What do I need to do next to make an impact on someone else's life? Because it's not about my life. It's about someone else's life in the future of our generation.
And also,
Dr. Butler.
That Reverend Moon, is that you?
Yes, it is.
Oh, you have a question, ma'am?
Yes, I want to ask Dr. Butler. I really appreciate all she's saying and all that she's doing. But I am a former high school counselor. I was chaplain at the University of Maryland for 25 years. And I was high school counselor for 40 years. And I have so many students who are so far in debt with these student loans, they just can't get their lives together. I know people trying to get Biden to do something that hasn't come through. Do you know of any kind of help that some of these students could get for student loans?
I don't know where they can help getting the student loans, and I really discourage young people taking out loans. I try to tell them if you look for the scholarships, and a lot of times what happens, it's easier for them to apply for a loan, and they put that in front of them so frequently, and we got so much in debt. I was one of those young people who got in debt when I went away to college. My first 2 years was fully paid for. My third and fourth year was not, and so I didn't realize that until later on. And so I really encourage young people to try to apply. There's so much money out there to apply for everything that's out there, because there are funds out there. But currently at this state right now, if some of these students are in the situation, and try to work into a community where they repay your loans. And those still exist. If you go and work into tribal communities and low income areas, that still actually, there's an opportunity to get some of your loans repaid. Also, join AmeriCorps. Those also repay part of your debts that you owe with loan. And also Public Allies, another organization that you can join that pays additional funds. I think it's up to $10,000 to $20,000 of your college loans. And you also get a stipend while you're doing this. So there are programs that our young people can get into that will help repay their loans, but they need to know about them. They need to know there is an option out there for them.
Well, isn't that the issue? I know this, you know this, you've spoken to this. She was a counselor at the college, and yet there's probably other counselors in other places, in other schools. High school, they're out. They're not getting the information, not because no one wants to give it to them, because they're probably that where they are, they don't have the information, or they don't care. Whoever doesn't have the time or wants to get the time to seek it out to give.
Correct. Well, one of the things that happens, a lot of these programs, they don't recommend us. People who look like us, they don't recommend us for these programs.
That's right.
And that's what needs to start happening. More of us need to know about the programs and recommend these programs to our young people, and have them and let them know that don't chase a dollar. Because some of them, they want to get out and they want to work and make money now that I've gotten a degree. It's not about chasing that dollar. You might not make as much, but you will have residual income later on if you do these things to help pay off your loans, so that you can have a great future and you can get other decent jobs. So I tell young people, don't chase a dollar and want to get out and work right away. If you have a lot of debt, try to get involved in a program that's going to help you pay your debt off.
Comfort, you had a question. I saw you raise your hand physically.
Yes. How are you doing, Dr. Yeboah?
How are you?
How are you? Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Just like you. I'm the real African in America. I also was born in Nigeria, and I live in the UK. Actually, my eldest son's birthday is today, October 6, 1980. He's 41 years old today, but him and his wife lives in North Carolina. You are right about what you're saying. It also depends on upbringing. When my son was in college, I had the, opportunity. I have, what do you call it? Contract with the federal government, selling food at the back of the White House. So, it's not like we didn't apply for student loan, but, I was making good money. That was before my third child, Emmanuel, was brutally murdered. I was making 6 figures, and I was able to pay for his schooling. We were not qualified. We applied, but they said, I don't know where they get that from, that I was making too much money and he was not qualified. But things happen in a mysterious way. It also depends, because I've seen a lot of people that were born in Nigeria and they come over here and they are worse than the children that we raise here. How do you explain that? So it depends on on the upbringing. Charity begins at home. If you start, of course, you have to know where you come from to know where you're going. I understand that. I appreciate all that. But still, it depends, heaven only helps those who help themselves. Once you lay the foundation, and, although things do happen, I never thought what happened to Emmanuel or Kutuga can never happen to me, because all my children are well-read from reputable school. Masters from John Hopkins, my story. And Isaiah got MBA from College Park before he and his wife moved to North Carolina. So, still, but once you have the identity of a Black man and you're an African in America like we are, so, we just have to pray. Because, I know you and I met at Howard University when we were going to talk to the mothers that, don't even know if their children are alive or dead. And they were even telling me, comfort, you are lucky, at least you have a closure. Your child, you bury. But all this, I'm just saying this, that, we just have to be prayerful. And, I believe, every life has been programmed. So that's just what I need to add to that, and upbringing. And, just do your best. And
Comfort, I know that we all may need to be prayerful, but I want us to be more actionable. We need to be more outwardly actionable. We need to really get off our knees, to get out the door, and to be active, because otherwise this doesn't move.
Okay, what was the offense of what has called a Black man running from a cop, not towards you? What kind of threat does what has called pose to you as an officer of the court, that you have to shoot that man 5 times in his back and throw a taser gun at him?
And
I just want to say
Comfort, you do it all, because you are on your knees, but you are also very active. You are out there in the community meeting everybody that they can to advocate for your son. So
yes,
so she does it all.
Have to be prayerful. Right. What kind of crime does what's the name of the young lady? Not Tamia Rice, the one that was in her bed at 3 a.m.
Breonna Taylor?
Breonna Taylor. So I just want to say something quickly as far as...
What kind of crime that she committed in her sleep?
Well, in this country, the crime was being Black. And that's what Black people need to understand. That's why we have to
be prayerful, work and pray.
We have to be prayerful, but we also have to be, as Dr. Dyer was saying, we have to react. And one thing I believe, I think you can't leave prayer without action. And it's not that so people say my sister say, oh, you're not religious, because my sister prayed and prayed and prayed, and unfortunately she tried to pray her gallstones away, and she was in this church trying to pray her gallstones. But I'm like, the Lord gave us the knowledge and the ability to know that they're gallstones and what you need to do to take care of them. So prayer comes with it, but you have to be action oriented, and you have to know how to take care of it, or create, or develop, or find out how to take care of something. And one thing I want to say that is very different, because I am married to an African, and you say Yaboa, there's a big difference between African and African Americans. And one thing that we have to do, and also immigrants come into this country, need to know the plight of the African American in this country. And so and I tell people, you've got to learn in this country, especially of color, when you walk into this country, it's not what you have in your back home. You're not treated the same. You're not thought about the same. I just left Ghana, and one of the things that the director of diaspora said to me, there's not one country in the world, or one continent in the world, that a black person in general, will be that is respected, except on the continent of Africa. We are not respected anywhere because of social media and everything else. That's Black people are the bottom of this. No matter where you go, any country that is non-Black, Black people are not respected. And the reason, some of those reasons are because we don't realize that we have to unify with our continental home. We have to. There's no doubt about it. We have to understand that you being from Nigeria, you are my cousin, you're my sister, you're my brother, you are part of me. I am part of you. We have to know each other's plights. We have to know the history that we went through. Because when people come here to this country, especially people of color, they don't realize what Black people have gone through. And then they realize, unfortunately, it's like, oh my God, my hunter didn't understand driving while Black was a crime until he got stopped 4 times after driving our BMW. And he had a pathfinder, never got stopped. 60 plus years old, never got stopped. As soon as he's driving a BMW, he can stop. And he got stopped 3 times in less than a month. And all of a sudden he says, driving while Black is real. Because he didn't understand the plight that we went through and understand the historical relevance that this country has relegated a Black man and a Black woman to. And understanding that is very important. Once you understand that, you know that you need to unify and partner to make a change, make a difference. Unless we don't do that enough. We're so disjointed from each other that we don't know each other's stories.
Erica,
so I just wanted to say that.
Erica, you had a question.
Yes, thank you, Doctor. And thank you so much, Dr. Butler. I appreciate the intro and the information that you shared with us. I want to go back to where you shared how your daughters or the young ladies were able to get scholarships or, pretty much not have to pay as much money for school. As we know, and the young lady who mentioned on the line about UMD, UMD is a really good school, and it's very expensive, right? Especially for out of state. But what I wanted to say was in reference to the question about how can we get that information out to our students, our African-American students, or just non-white students especially. I recall back in the day in church, my uncle, my aunt, and them, they were foot soldiers. They would go to the neighborhoods. They would do that. And I'm sure people are doing that as well. But one idea that I thought about as you guys were speaking about how to get that information to them is, maybe more groups of people going into the high schools, definitely partnering up with the county schools and getting that information, because a lot of the things that you named as far as how we could potentially not have to pay that much for school, that's information I want to share with those folks. And, of course, my family and my friends and anyone else, because school is expensive. So I wanted to just ask if you could you outline some of those things that you named just a moment ago so that we can share them and take them to maybe, the young people in our neighborhoods and things like that, and just let them know,
All right, well, one thing I think I always tell people when they're in college, if they can't afford to pay it, look into the ROTC, some of the military programs of any various branch of the military, and don't go in before you go into college. Once you get into college, become part of those organizations, because that will actually pay for your college while you're in, and you'll get out being an officer. So that's one way that individuals can pay for their education, is through the military. And they have multiple different, and that's either Army, Navy, and so on. They have the ROTC at most colleges. So that's one way while you're in college. Once you graduate and you have this debt behind you, think about AmeriCorps, Public Allies, also Peace Corps, some of those organizations that aren't going to pay much, but they will give you money and they will pay back a portion of your loans that you've taken out. And also working in, if you work in a tribal, if you go and work in some of the tribal locations, and especially on the reservations, if you're working there as a teacher, you can get your loans paid back. And if you're also as a physician, you can get your loans paid back. So those taking on some of those jobs and opportunities, even though it's not going to give a lot of money up front, but it will establish you and will pay back a lot of what you might owe.
And that experience is also invaluable because of what you get to do and the people you get to meet.
And you're building up. I tell young people, you need to build your resume. And those are resume builder opportunities for you.
Before we take off, I see Brother Darius has joined us, and he had mentioned this on another show of ours. And I would like him to elaborate that I think we need to get into the communities and go door to door. Brother Darius, you want to talk about that a little bit, your idea, your plan of approaching the community and getting that information out there?
Sure. Good evening. Peace and love. And thanks for having me. I appreciate the work that you all are doing. Dr. Dyer, Queen Marylyn Pierre, and my longtime friend, Dr. Yvette Butler Yeboah.
Yes, we knew it. We went back way before I was a butler. I mean, Yeboah.
Yes, indeed. On the front line. And I cannot forget our Queen Judge Claudia Barber. So, and to everyone else. So let me jump right into it. There's a question taking place in America right now. And that question is, why are we killing each other in the Black community? And there's a very simple answer, in my opinion. And I would suggest that anyone who debates this should do the research or be interested in finding it out. 1 out of 2 homicides in America, alcohol is involved. If you look at any city, any urban center in America, and you take a map and you put where gunshots and homicides that are linked to guns, and you place them down on the map, and then you overlay that map with liquor stores, what you'll find is they sit right on top of each other. If you look at the same map and you find the areas that do not have, in the same city, that do not have an inordinate amount of liquor stores, what you'll find is you won't have an inordinate amount of shootings and homicides by guns. Now, this isn't just like local statistics or national statistics, this is international statistics. And I bring that up because we talk about a lot of other things. We talk about more police. We talk about the Biden pushed crime bill that has decimated our community all over again. We talk about tougher crime laws and gun laws. We talk about gun rights. None of those things have worked. And I'm talking for 30 years. If you remember in 1989 and 90, they were calling the District of Columbia. Somebody challenged me on this the other day. They may have started it. Nixon may have started it, but they definitely called the District of Columbia because the district had over 500 homicides. And of course, it's shifted from city to city. But my point being that alcohol has lead in it. Lead causes depression, ADHD, suicidal tendencies, violent tendencies. And I just mentioned the fact that 1 out of 2 homicides involve alcohol. Well, it's pretty close to 1 out of 2 in suicide, in domestic violence, and sexual assaults. I'll take suicide off the table. Excuse me. So when you recognize that, then the core of our challenge when it comes to violence is dealing with the alcohol, which is now created in our communities a dependency, because now you have women who are carrying eggs and men who are carrying the sperm, and they're creating babies that are literally swimming in wombs of alcohol. I believe it's called fetal alcohol syndrome.
Correct.
And so the reason why it's important to go door to door is because, unfortunately, the things that we just talked about, domestic violence, sexual abuse, and inside the trauma that's in our homes, it's not just good enough to have a community meeting. It's not just good enough to have a school program. It's not good enough to have a dynamic Boys and Girls Clubs, which I ran for 18 years throughout the District of Columbia in Maryland, where I met Dr. Butler doing great work with the Gap Busters program, and she took our children all over the world. That's not enough, because those children still have to go back to home. And so the reason why I say that, we're dealing with a situation in the city of Annapolis. In Annapolis, they had 11 homicides in 2016. Annapolis is about 33,000 people. And it was per capita on the same par with Chicago in 2016. But this is happening in Prince George's County. This is happening in Baltimore City. Again, go look at it and see where you see a lot of alcohol establishments, and you'll find those liquor stores. There's a study that the Baltimore City Health Department did in 2009 on juvenile violence and homicide, and what you'll see is exactly what I'm talking about. The reason why you have to go door to door and home family by family is because we're dealing with a family issue. The parents are traumatized. As a result of the parents being traumatized, trauma is normalized, and then the children become traumatized. And so as a result of that, we have to take a holistic approach and deal with the entire family, house by house. Now, people would say, well, wow, that would cost a lot of money. Well, so did the Iraq war. So did the war in Afghanistan. The United States spent $750 billion. Over $1.2 trillion, $1.4 trillion in the last 2 years on defense funding, $1.4 trillion. So money is not the issue. It's what we decide we want to do with the money.
And
right?
I think, Erica, and I'm going to let Dr. Butler answer, but I think Erica and people will ask, how do our communities get this? Our town halls are not going to do it anymore, because the people are not coming out. So we have to knock on their door. And I understand in different communities, several communities, because my wife brought this up, a lot of people are just not going to answer the door. But we have to be consistent with saying we're here for you, not to take from you. And so often we have so many programs who they come in and we give them a service, and in a short amount of time, the service is gone. Go ahead, Dr. Butler, continue before we...
No, I was going to say, what Dyer saying, the door by door, and now the social media is so available to us. Because I remember back, that we still had those big old phones and beepers and cell phones. It wasn't even a thing then. So, but social media has changed the trajectory of this country, and we have to really utilize social media to the best of our abilities. And you said people won't open their doors, but we have to start reaching the different populations. And we have to look at, for the youth, that's TikTok and these other places, we got to start putting things out there. And all that information, they are taking in. And we have to realize they are, and it changes how they think and how they react. So we have to start putting positive messages out there. We have to learn in each various groups what's the best way of communicating, and really utilize those communication tools. And I say this because, as we all know, what happened to George Floyd has been happening for centuries. since we've been in this country to Black folks. But if it wasn't for the video that was taken and social media spreading it out, we would have never, ever known. The world woke up and people didn't talk about it, but countries throughout the world, especially on the continent of Africa, they went to our embassies and protested. Nigeria demanded information, respect, and they said, "This, you have to change. This is totally unacceptable." Ghana has a wall for George Floyd. I mean, it's just, those things would have never happened. And so it woke up everybody worldwide through social media. So I think we have to use some of these tools that we have and really put them into action. And I want to say, before I forget, Dr. Moon, I want to thank you for being here. Dr. Moon is one of my wonderful mentors, and thank you so much for being here tonight, Dr. Moon. So that's my take on it.
Dr. Butler, I'd like to thank you for all the work that you're doing and continuing to do. You seem very robust and you have a lot of energy, so I can see a lot of years ahead of you doing this type of work. I wholeheartedly agree with your statement. We have to know where we come from. And I see it to mean what we have overcome as a people, and also what contribution we have made to this society that most people don't know of. So what would you suggest, how would you suggest we get that information out to our community? What we have done, what contributions we have made, and, how would you suggest we go about doing that?
Well, it's not in the history books. And so we can't say rewrite history, but we have to start telling our story. And we have to use every vehicle that is available to us now to tell our stories. And once we start telling our stories, you ask the people to tell it again. And that's going to be the most important thing to do, is telling our stories. Like, I do a talk show on Fridays, and we had a writer on there talk about, just writing your stories. We have to start writing our own stories and telling our stories and ensuring that our stories are being retold and putting them on different platforms so people can hear the stories. I'm not sure if you heard about the 400 Commission that they commissioned here in under the National Parks and Plains to talk about the 400 years of greatness. Now, for me, it's not no 400 years of greatness. It's the 400 years of our what's happened to us, which has been erased and not put down on paper. And so we have to actually start telling our stories and make sure that those 400 years of being in this country are well documented, and not only here, but what we've done worldwide.
Who do we go to get these stories, to get this information? Since you say it's not in the history books, and you're right.
Mm-hmm. Well, we have to start creating them ourselves and utilizing the media tools we have to get it out there.
We actually started a school. Judge Barber and a number of her sister Antoinette, a number of other folks in Anne Arundel County. I'm going to put it in the chat in a minute, called Al-Kabilon Shule. Al-Kabilon is the name given to the continent during the time of Kemet. And Shule is Saturday, it's school in Kiswahili. And so our focus is, we created it during COVID online. And we've had folks such as Rashuda Rashiki, the brother that's doing the Tony Browder, and a number of other scholars from around the country and also on the continent. And so I'll encourage you to go to our website. It's very robust. It's very focused on. It's every first Saturday of the month from 10 to 12:30 p.m. And we're also making linkages to do trade and business with Africa and Americans, so that we can create the type of synergy as well as student exchanges. So we definitely encourage you to get involved and support the work that we're doing, because we're very excited about educating our community about ancient world history, which happens to be ancient Alkebulan, just our people. So you can, whatever name you so choose to use. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
What's the name of your website again? Hello?
He's gonna put it. He's gonna put it in the
Alkebulan.
chat. He's gonna put it in the chat.
Alkebulan Shule.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay. So I would like to attend your program. Also, Dr. Yeboah, I also started Comfort, Financial Act. I'm trying to educate the minorities because, this financial injustice that is going on, over 40,000 jobs lost during this pandemic, 700 lives lost, by mostly minority. So if I know what time your program is coming on, I'll surely be there. I'm fighting for, I know it's too late for my son, but if I can help just one mother, because when you lose a child, not because they have committed a crime, but just because of the color of their skin, you never get over it. So as time goes on, it's been over 10 years, but when I talk about it, it's just like yesterday. But, I'm using my energy to go out there and help other parents that, how we can, develop our communities and the financial injustice, how we can, and to second what you have said before, that, the same thing is still happening in Africa. Divide and rule. They will say one tribe is better than the other. So when we come here, they will say, you know what I'm talking about, Dr. Yeboah. So we have to start educating our people that it's not like that. They will say Yoruba's tribe is inferior to Hausa. Boko Haram and all this nonsense. So when you are busy fighting each other, you forget the real, and white man is going out there and stealing all our resources, stole us blind. So, and we are busy, fighting each other. So by going out there, even though it's too late for my son, if we go out there, educate, our people on how to gain. I know it's going to be difficult to meet them, 400 years of free, not even cheap, free, nothing, labor. So it's going to be a while, but we can just try by educating the young people who are more energetic and more well-read than us. So whichever way you all think we can do that and protect our next generation so that we can, benefit.
One thing I was going to say, I think we all need to start partnering, synergizing our efforts to reach more. And that's one thing that we really have to do. And I tell you, and Darius, I've been working here for a while, and he knows that this whole COVID was, it brought opportunities in a lot of different ways. And so one of the things that we did and that we're expanding in Ghana now, we're actually getting ready to start a STEM school in Ghana. And but this whole year from last year, we had a cross-cultural relationship with our students in Ghana and our students in the United States. So they met on Saturdays just to talk about cultural exchanges, because that's what's going to take, learn about each other. And these were middle schoolers working and talking with the middle schools, learn about one another and learning our histories. So each of them had to talk about and tell different stories. I want this story to tell different historical facts about their countries, about their religion, and about who they are as people. And our folks here do the same with the students in Ghana. So they learned a lot. And so that whole breaking of the cultural barriers and exposing is going to be a real key to changing the future of our young people and the future of Black folks worldwide. So I think that we should, one of the things like we should do here, the folks here, really start looking at what people are doing, how we can come together and expand on what we are doing to tell the stories, get the information out there, and utilizing our resource that we do have to make the difference.
If I could real quick, I apologize, Judge Bob. The mental health is another key area that I really want us to, when we talked about the door to door. If you could encourage your local administrations, your state delegates, call the Speaker of the House, call the President of the Senate, and ask them to develop and put in place a statewide mental health bill. The same way they put in a statewide blueprint for education, statewide bill for HBCUs. We need a statewide bill to address mental health at the grassroots level in our communities, in our prisons, in our schools. Right now, our schools are severely understaffed as it applies to guidance counselors. This is a national challenge, and if we didn't need guidance counselors now, more than ever, we need them now. So request a statewide mental health package.
We can continue talking, but we know that attention span of people who listen to podcasts and YouTube channels, they have already went to sleep. So we'll continue to talking, but let people know we're here every Wednesday at 6 p.m. You be the judge. And Judge Claudia Barber, you want to say anything before we close the show?
Quickly, yes, I just wanted to share how wonderful the thoughts were just rejuvenating here this evening. And I agree that we should all consider creating our story, because if we are the only ones that can share our story. And that's the reason why soon to be Judge Marylyn Pierre and I and another judge have considered co-authoring a book. And it's not going to be pretty. No. It's not going to be pretty. It's going to be the real story. And not only is it going to be the real story, the media won't like it either. So, you have to tell the story, and only you can tell the story. No one can take that from you. So I appreciate everything that Dr. Butler Yaboa shared with us. And of course, Darius, his magnificent self, and his enlightening comments about the need to really eradicate liquor stores in low-income communities, because that's a serious issue and problem. So that's all I wanted to share. I'm sort of sure we could go further.
Well, we do know that I am glad that we have many listeners, and because of Judge Claudia Barber, we have the FBI listening. So that is a plus, because anything that she is on, they are tapping in. So we do know we're reaching other people. So thank you everyone for listening, and we're going to continue talking, but we'll see you next Wednesday at 6 p.m.
Thank you.